Good morning. It's Friday, about 7:30 in the morning on September 9th, 2022, coming to you from the East Coast of the United States. And, I'm going to make some coffee and I have something interesting to talk to you about today. So, I was just looking at my drawers of coffee here and I saw this. Thought, I'm going to choose my coffee this morning by getting some out of the pretty box. So, okay, this is Buenos Aires Lungo. Okay, but I almost always make my lungos as espressos. Get the machine heating up, and I'm gonna get some milk because I do like my, you know what? Hey, instead of milk this morning, let me put in a couple of mini moos. That will be nice, okay? There's one. Okay, and here's the second one. Okay, the machine's heated up now. I put in my capsule. Should I run it as a lungo? You know what? I'll go ahead and run it as a lungo this morning. Why not? Because I only have these two little mini moos in there. And yeah, I'll do the lungo. Okay, so here we go. Let's count, okay? 1001, 1002, 1003, 1004, 1005, 1006, 1007, 1008, 1009. Okay, so this took about 10 seconds. And a lungo on this machine is it 3.7 ounces? My gosh, let me refresh my memory. Okay, yes, 3.7 ounces, whereas an espresso is 1.35 ounces. So then those of you who are on the metric system, an espresso is 40 milliliters and a lungo is 110 milliliters. So, I guess I'll give it a little stir, even though it does look like it got mixed up okay. As it was falling down into the cream, just make sure it gets good and mixed here. And that tastes pretty good. So, okay. Kind of gives me a little bit bigger cup of coffee this morning. So, this is what I wanted to talk to you about, okay? These days, I would say, people have always had problems with anxiety. But I think, especially since the coronavirus started, pretty much in early 2020 in the United States at any rate. It's just turned a lot of people's lives upside down and has been the cause of a lot of anxiety. Not, like for example, I've never had COVID, thank God, but it's changed my lifestyle so much with quarantine and, all kinds of stuff like that. Even yesterday I helped take my grandkids to the doctor, and in the pediatrician's office we all had to wear masks, even little kids. So yeah, life has really changed for a lot of us, and our lifestyles have changed. And when we are forced to make changes sometimes that we don't want to make, or changes that can be related to fearful things too, like a lot of them because of COVID, were related to fear, our anxiety level tends to ramp up. So some people, some people are just kind of naturally optimists, but I think there's a lot of people who are kind of pessimists. Even if you're not naturally a pessimist, if you look at the news these days, and even a lot of things on social media are very negative and scary, and just have a sort of a negative attitude about them. That's one of the reasons why I try to make my Facebook page a place that is positive. So I wanted to read to you, there's a book, I'm not going to read your book, don't worry. There's a book that I read, or I should say I listened to, called, okay, let me get the right title. I'm not seeing the title. Rewire Your Anxious Brain, I think it was called, by Catherine Pittman and I think somebody else. Actually, there's several books that, oh, here it is, yes, Rewire Your Anxious Brain by Pittman and Carles, K-A-R-L-E, okay, Pittman and Carl. So, it was really, really helpful to me, and included with the book were a bunch of notes, and the notes were titled Identifying Anxiety Igniting Thoughts. So in other words, sometimes we can think of, have a thought, or maybe, see something on the news, social media, whatever it is, even a TV show, and that can all of a sudden ignite anxious thoughts. So especially if you tend to kind of be pessimistic or think in a negative way, or are easily influenced by negative thoughts, this might help you a little bit. So a pessimistic attitude can reduce your willingness to try to change your anxiety. How about that? Since you don't expect success, even though changes may prove helpful. So here's a little assessment. See how many of these things are things that you tend to engage in. Here's some examples. When I have an upcoming presentation or examination, I worry quite a bit and fear that I won't do well. Okay, do you do that? I generally expect that if something can go wrong, it will. You've heard of Murphy's Law. If anything can possibly go wrong, it will. That's funny. But the thing is that some people tend to think that way, and that's not funny. I'm often convinced that my anxiety will never end. When I hear that something unexpected has happened to someone, I typically imagine that it is something negative. Do you ever feel like if somebody gets in touch with you, or maybe at work, I used to experience this, the boss would want to talk to me. Immediately I'd think, oh no, what's wrong? What did I do wrong? And some people kind of tend to think that way a lot about anything unexpected that's going to be a negative thing. So here's another one. I frequently prepare myself for negative events that I fear will occur, but which never do. Wow, spending time doing that. Let me go on. If it weren't for bad luck, I wouldn't have any luck at all. Do you feel that way sometimes? Some people want to make the world a better place, but that seems pretty hopeless to me. Most people will let you down, so it's best not to expect too much. Oh dear. So if you agreed with many of these statements, then you have a tendency to worry. And here are some suggestions to help you stop that worrying. Now, very often our anxiety comes from something that's difficult to control. It comes from sort of our fight or flight reflex that happens in a part of our brain that's based in feelings and memories and things like that. But this type of worrying, this pessimism that I talked about, a lot of that has to do with the front part of your brain that's the thinking part. So one of the things that you can do is what's called thought stopping. Excuse me. Let me get a little drink here. Wet the whistle. So if you realize that you're thinking some negative things, like some of these things that I read about, it would be helpful if you could do something to distract yourself. Now, you may need to plan this out beforehand and think, okay, what can I do to distract my thoughts if I'm thinking negative stuff? You know, plan beforehand so you'll be ready with your arsenal of weapons to fight against these anxious thoughts, all right? So, you know, one thing actually you can do is if you physically change your position, very often it will help you to change your thinking pattern. I mean, seriously, if you're sitting down, get up. If you're inside, walk outside. Even things like that can be helpful. Go drink a glass of water. You don't have to drink the whole thing. Just drink some, okay? Doing something physical can help to break up a thought pattern that's not benefiting you. Sometimes you just have to say to yourself, okay, stop, and pick a subject that would be a happier subject for you to think about. Now, you know, it seems like that would be simple, but actually it takes practice to do that. You have to, you know, for some people, their thoughts so often just keep turning to negative, pessimistic, worrying kinds of, you know, areas that you actually have to practice stopping and changing your thoughts. So I'm going to drink my coffee now. I've gone on long enough about this. But the book that this all is from is Rewire Your Anxious Brain by Pittman, Pittman, and Carle, Karle. And I highly recommend it to you. There are other things here I'll read in the next few days about other types of anxiety. But having pessimistic thoughts and negative thoughts can really increase your anxiety. And golly, you know, there's enough problems in the world. You don't need to make problems for yourself, right? Okay. Enjoy your day.